This is Steve.
And this is Shawn.
This is Acromedia's High Five.
So, Steve, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to be talking about EDU, so universities using Drupal.
And not the fact that I got mostly thumb on that high five. Eh?
That's okay.
Okay.
Sometimes you can't make every high five perfect. I never look at them. You always look at the high five.
See, I didn't there, and it's just, I don't
so
have
next
that
time look
skill.
at the high five so that we get it proper. So, EDU. It's been a big conversation recently.
Yeah.
It's been a conversation because the OpenEDU 3.0. It's been a conversation just because it's a vertical that is often not talked about, but is already using Drupal. And so just talking a little bit about...
Well, I mean, in the Drupal space, it's talked about a ton. In the
guess so,
commerce space, almost none at all.
Yeah, it's very fair.
Yeah,
So
it's one of the big ones for Drupal itself.
And then the last thing then, which kind of segues in there, is the commerce side, which isn't talked about, which is what I should have said. Didn't say it, so forgive me.
Some of us can high five. Some of us can maintain a coherent thought process.
Well, we're going to continue on this episode. So, about how many universities are using Drupal? Do you know that fact and figure?
A lot. I mean, it depends. It's like 7 of the top 10. It's,
okay.
It's a good majority of them, actually. Especially if you count in some capacity, right? Like, are they using it for everything? Probably not. Are they using it for something? Almost all of them use it for something.
Yeah, for something.
Right? For one department site or something, at least like that, right?
And if they're not using it for their entire ecosystem, what would be a typical? We're using it for this one thing. What would those
like
kind
a
of things
department,
be?
like the computer science department uses
Okay.
it, or the business department uses it. Even if like the main corporate site doesn't, or like the main promotion site of the university doesn't, like the university doesn't have one site, like any university. They're made up of like a ton of different pieces usually put together, for course registrations and calendars and events and fun things and alumni and meeting notes, and because they serve like 10 or more different sort of types of users.
And what would be, obviously you kind of mentioning why they should be using it, but has there been any unified reason as to why 7 of the top 10 have already adopted it? Is it because it's obviously what you can do, the fact that it's open source? Is there something that I'm missing?
Probably the biggest two. I don't work at a university, I don't
Sure.
know, but we've talked to a number of them and stuff. Open source does play a pretty big part in that. Lots of universities, that's a general mandate for them. They're, government or publicly funded and stuff. So it's, open stuff is sort of pushed more than proprietary stuff, to fit with their sort of goals and stuff. And then they need to manage a ton of content by a ton of different people. So they need a really big, robust CMS because, like I said, they have all these different departments, all these different people, and they don't just have like an editor who controls everything. They have the deans from every department and
they all do things. They're like states. They all do things differently.
And none of them like want the other ones to like control what they do, right? It's like 50 different states, 14th Amendment or whatever it is, right? That you can't restrict them and they can make basically their own rules and do whatever. That's why I said there's different, like one department might use Drupal because they were just like, we're going to use Drupal.
Yep.
And everyone else can go stuff it, right?
Yep.
So
Nice catch.
it was almost a sweat.
So kind of a segue. So right now we have the new OpenEDU version coming out. And
That is the 3.0 on Drupal 8, done by ImageX.
our very own, at one point, Brian Sharp has contributed to that.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Filthy Trader, Brian Sharp, works on that.
That's okay. We'll forgive you this one time because this is really good for the community and universities.
We can also take some credit because fellow Canadians, ImageX, they're only a few hours away from us.
So that being said, what is that module specifically improving?
Well, that's a distribution, so
Sure.
it's
Sorry,
a Drupal
yes,
setup,
that's right.
which, to be pedantic, is slightly different.
Thank you.
It's a distribution setup specifically for EDUs. The older one, like the 2.0 version or the 2 version, was mostly just sort of a set of custom configuration, whereas the 3.0 actually does have unique functionality built into it as well. So it's got a lot of analytics and monitoring that's actually built right into it, and sort of that's the biggest new piece of functionality it has. It has this really big sort of analytics dashboard that lets you monitor stuff from within that, and so central admin can see what's happening on all the different sections instead of like going into 17 different Google Analytics accounts and stuff like that, or even going into a separate Google Analytics account to begin with. And so you can give analytics for sections to different people and things like that, which is pretty cool. Along with all the EDU functionality that came along, all the content management functionality, all the order work or the workflows and the editing flows and stuff like that to say these people can control this and this person can control that, this person can publish, this person can't. All that stuff set up sort of specifically to handle universities, departments, things like that.
How do you know all this? Did you get a demo?
We did get a little bit of a demo, and Brian and I mostly talk about hockey, but we do occasionally talk about work-related things too.
Right on. And from what I understand too, the new distribution, not module, distribution, is being set up into the Commerce install so that you can have Drupal Commerce and OpenEDU right out of the gate.
Yeah, we support a couple of installs right now. We didn't support OpenEDU. We talked to them and they said, wait for the 3.0. Now that the 3.0 is out, we are going to start working on that. 3.0 was waiting for 8.5.
Yep.
8.5 has come out. 3.0 is coming out now.
Kind of full circle here.
Yeah. If you've seen our previous episode or our future episode, depending on how they get released.
Yep. Thanks, marketing team.
So that will integrate as well once we get it set up, which is
Right
cool.
on.
So you can have OpenEDU with Commerce.
So that kind of segues into our final topic, which is, oddly enough, universities are not using Commerce, even though it's been readily available, but they are using Drupal. So
and they are really not using Commerce to almost a strange amount.
Yeah. When it does happen, it's on rare occasion, or they're already doing it themselves and they haven't really even spoken about it.
Yeah, it's like Commerce has got like 60,000 installs, and like almost none of them are from universities.
Yeah,
some of them are
strange,
like I'm exaggerating slightly, but considering how many universities use Drupal and perform e-commerce, the fact that so few of them use that and otherwise have incredibly antiquated and frankly terrible commerce systems, right? It's not like, oh, well, they use a really awesome system so they don't need it. They don't. Like sometimes they have nothing almost, right?
Well, you and I have been talking too, and there's a couple areas within universities that it just makes sense to use Drupal Commerce. Because you're already using Drupal, and the things that we kind of narrowed down on was, the businesses that run within a university, for example, like the bookstore. It'd be so easy just to, you already have a Drupal set up, now just put in Commerce, you even have a point of sale you could be using, you have that whole setup going on. And the point that you made was the whole donation piece. You had mentioned alumni, you had mentioned different clubs even getting donations and such. So
yeah, and that's why when we talk about all those million different little departments, right? They don't have really any system to do that, right? But they probably have Drupal, right? So they can just tack on a little bit of commerce. Now they can sell, $50 club memberships, and they can, take donations and that. And they don't need much commerce necessarily, but they need some. And when they have none, they're taking cash or transfer. I don't know, like they got a PayPal link or something.
In my non-technical mind, it seems like an obvious transition just to use Drupal Commerce. Why do you think that it hasn't been used?
I mean, there's a couple things that get them. We've asked a bunch of people this at various DrupalCons and stuff like that. A lot of time it's just simply lack of awareness. They're really heavily focused on the sort of publishing end of things, and so they just don't really think of CMS commerce, and they don't put it together.
Yeah, that's actually pretty common, that idea that you don't see that, right? It's like CMS commerce must be two different platforms.
Yeah, and so they don't even get to investigating it, right? Another one that comes up is just security concerns. Not that there's any problem with Drupal, but just like they know, credit cards security, and then like it just comes to a full halt there or whatever, right? There's well, we got to maintain PCI compliance, we got to do this and that, and it's like, they don't understand necessarily, depending on how their payment gateway works, if it's offsite payments, if it's done through a more modern like JavaScript setup, the requirements are different, they're lesser, or you can set them up once for the the whole university, and then that's actually better because now everyone can just use.
You ever think it's strange though, where it's like, because being an alumni and donating myself, they've taken my credit card over the phone, but
which means they wrote it down on a sticky note somewhere, almost assuredly.
I know.
Yeah.
So
or you're in some spreadsheet somewhere.
It's like, I know there's a picture somewhere with a Hawaiian dude with a little sticky note, right, with the password and all that, or my
to give out the nuclear threat warnings or whatever. Yeah.
So yeah, they'll take that, but we have these issues regarding security, but it really seems as if that's a moot point, right? We're avoiding security by doing something less secure.
The thing is in fact, it's not like they don't take money now, right? The clubs do take registrations and stuff like that. It's just however everyone decides to do it, right?
Yeah.
Through a million different systems and things like that, and random PayPal accounts, and they're taking cash or the whatever, right? And so, what would actually be better is you take a Drupal site, you set that up for everyone, right? And now you say, here's one thing that the IT department can maintain, can make sure is actually secure. And it's like, here's the payment thing. Anyone who wants to spin up their own little thing, they can
distribute
take
it
payments.
out.
And so instead of this, randomness of whatever department, doing whatever security or lack of security they feel, you can have a centralized thing. But they can all still have their own little custom donations or store or whatever they need.
And it almost makes sense where it's like with the holdup of this. Obviously, we have to educate and get that adoption, but it was 8.5, EDU 3.0. And some of the latest versions of Commerce, just obviously being the install and things like that, make it really easy.
Yeah, although I think it's a lot more a knowledge thing than it has been a tech thing or whatever. I mean, there were versions of OpenEDU before that. I mean, lots of places do it without OpenEDU too, right? Like it's not like you can't do that either. But that jump, there's other more than just a tech barrier. And probably the tech barrier being the least of it, I would say.
Yeah. It's definitely been top of mind, even going, planning our trip to Nashville here for the next DrupalCon. It's been top of mind to investigate this further and survey. There's a ton of universities there, like all DrupalCons, and see, kind of what the holdback is in their opinion as of 2018. So it would be cool to obviously do an episode on that once we have all the stats back and the data back to see what we should be doing
because
next.
it's a little bit of us guessing here, right? It's they don't use it and it's why, and we talk to various people and they kind of can give their little opinion on their department or their area. They say, well, I run this part and we don't use it because of this, because I've never heard of it, or because of, IT wouldn't approve security for us taking online transactions or whatever reason, right? So
We've talked about a lot today in our 11 or 12 minutes. I'm sure we've probably already used up. What's our too long didn't read of today's episode?
If you are an education institute, we say EDU, we mean mostly colleges and universities, although it could be whatever. You should really use Drupal Commerce because it can actually help you do a ton of things, and you're like most of the way there already.
Right on. If you want to subscribe to our channel, please do so. If you want to leave any comments or questions below regarding EDU, or if you want to get in touch with someone like Shawn to ask questions about Drupal Commerce and how it can be used, please do so.
Also, check us out on Facebook, follow our blog at acromedia.com, and follow me on Twitter.